By the way, again, we're all supposed to pretend that there are no costs to any of the things that the gender ideology movement is engaged in, like hormone replacement therapy. Fascinating piece by a woman named Yvonne Penrose over at Reality's Last Stand, talking about how she is a woman who has had same-sex hormones for replacement therapy. And she talks about how because she had premature ovarian failure, she was given hormone replacement therapy. And she talks about all the various risks. She talks about cancer, blood clots, heart attack, stroke. And she needed to take this medication for 25 to 30 years at a dose higher than is given to your average granny, just to mimic what my body should have been producing naturally. These are same-sex hormones. Infertility can be treated, but never cured. She talks about all of the costs of hormone replacement therapy. And now you're saying that if you take a normal, healthy girl and you pump her full of testosterone, that's going to have no long-term impact? It's just an incredible act of propaganda. And you must believe. You must believe. You must believe and you must repeat. And you must also ignore the fact that so many of these adults who are seeking validation from kids, some of them, a subset, are actively engaged in wanting to have sex with children. Okay, this is not all of them. This is not even near a majority of people who are engaged in gender ideology. I would say most of these people are either confused or have decided in their own narcissistic self-satisfaction that it's important to generate the next generation of supporters by essentially indoctrinating them. But there is a small subset who, in fact, engage with kids because they want to have sex with them. One example of this, an award-winning drag queen and LGBTQ youth advisor has now been charged with 25 counts of child pornography. And here's the deal, folks. If the media is allowed to suggest that there's a massive scandal inside the Catholic Church because there are a lot of priests who are molesting little boys, we are allowed to mention the fact that there seem to be a spate of LGBTQ youth activists who are promoting gender ideology to small children and are then getting arrested for things like child pornography. A drag queen performer and LGBTQ plus youth advisor, according to Daily Wire, has been charged with 25 counts of child pornography, allegedly in possession of dozens of photos and videos of nude underage boys sometimes performing oral sex. Bryce Williams, who uses the drag name Anastasia Diamond, allegedly downloaded 49 photos and 25 videos of child pornography between May and December of 2020, according to the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. Court documents say the sexually explicit images showed genitalia and boys performing oral sex and were connected to Williams' email address and phone number. Penn Live, a news source serving Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, gushed over the now charged drag queen last year for being a local activist who spreads pride all year long. Williams, who uses both masculine and feminine pronouns, is HIV medical case manager at Keystone Health Center in Chambersburg, but this month will join Glow Harrisburg, a center that offers a safe space for LGBTQ+ youth of color. I feel like that's not the safest of spaces. Just going to point that out. This doesn't seem like a person who is providing a safe space for the LGBTQ+ minus divided by sign youth. And again, if you refuse to go along with this ideology, I mean, that right there is actual grooming. But when we talk about political grooming, that's the bigger problem. If all personal things are political, and if you shift the personal, you shift the politics. And this is what the left has realized. And so they must cudgel and beat everybody in the culture into the idea that if you do not just repeat and believe, then you are some sort of terrible person. The latest example of a Maoist struggle session that is happening is, of course, Macy Gray. So Macy Gray made the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad comment that women and men exist. So she was in an interview with Piers Morgan, and she said that a woman can be defined as a human being with boobs and a vagina. She also agreed with Piers Morgan that transgender women should not compete in sports. She said, I will say this, and everybody's going to hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman. Sorry, I know that for a fact. Like, if you want me to call you a her, I will, because that's what you want, but that doesn't make you a woman, just because I call you a her. She said, being a girl is a whole epic book, and you can't just have that because you want to be a woman. Okay, well, how dare Macy Gray? How dare she? So her original response to the Twitter insanity was she posted, all of you coming on my page, threatening me and calling me names just because I said something you don't agree with, be whatever you want to be and F off. Well, yes, but then someone came to her and informed her that she would be subjected to an unending bout of recriminations and accusations and that the media would cut her off at the knees. And so she had to do the obligatory Maoist struggle session on Hoda and Jenna. We have to go on daytime TV, on the Today Show, and explain she just didn't know that some women have penises. She just didn't know. And now she's learning. And now she's becoming. And now she's growing into an ally. And by an ally, we mean somebody who will repeat the broadcast nonsense and the abject silliness that men and women are the same, and who will now become, it's not enough for you to approve of the agenda. You have to become an active champion for the agenda at the expense of everything, up to and including small kids. Here's Macy Gray apologizing for the biologically correct view that she holds about men and women.
There was a question about trans women, and this was what you said in part. As a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman. If you want me to call you a her, I will, because that's what you want, but that doesn't make you a woman. Just because I call you a her, just because you've got a surgery, you can call yourself whatever you want. There was a wave of backlash that came as a result. Just tell me where you are right now on that statement.
Well, I never, of course, meant to hurt anybody with what I said. I'm actually a huge, I think it takes a lot of courage to be yourself, to go out in the world and be honest about who you are. And so I think anyone who is in the LGBT community is a hero and sets an example for all of us with that, you know?
Set an example. They actually are members, and they set an example for everyone, for being themselves, for authenticity. Okay, so now she's allowed back in the club. She apologized. She's no longer a bigot. We struggle sessioned her into compliance. We just have to put like a sign around her neck saying, I am an LGBTQ ally, and then we can actually have her stand out there in front of a massive crowd of people who are chanting shame at her and just reenact fully the Maoist struggle sessions. Among the other people who are now engaging in Maoist struggle sessions, Friends co-creator Marta Kauffman, who is a wild liberal. I know because I actually interviewed her for my book, Primetime Propaganda. She's very much on the left, Marta Kauffman. Marta Kauffman was one of the groundbreaking TV writers who started pushing same-sex weddings, for example. There was a same-sex wedding in Friends very, very early. We were talking about like 2002, 2003. And so Marta Kauffman is now apologizing for not being sufficiently woke when she made Friends in the 90s because there were jokes. I know there were jokes about Chandler Bing's dad, because Chandler Bing's dad was a transgender woman played by Kathleen Turner, who went by Helena Handbasket and headlined a drag burlesque show in Las Vegas. And she is now expressing her regret and her remorse. She's very bad because she didn't take the time machine back to 1996 when she wrote these episodes. Her regret, she says, is that throughout the run of the show, whenever Helena was mentioned, she was routinely described as Chandler's father and referred to with he, him pronouns. One episode was even titled The One with Chandler's Dad. She said, quote, we kept referring to Helena as Chandler's father, even though Chandler's father was trans, noting that mother might have been more appropriate. Pronouns were not yet something I understood. So we didn't refer to that character as she. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. The entire media infrastructure, the entire institutional infrastructure of this culture is directed at promoting lies. And those lies must be, again, the goal is to cram it down on the kids. And so it's not a byproduct. It's not like an accidental byproduct that more kids are now identifying as LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign. That is the goal. That is the almost overt goal. When you subsidize something, you shouldn't be shocked when there is more of it. And parents who decide that their own sense of personal, political value is so tied up in their ideology, they're willing to sacrifice the mental and physical health of their children to it. Man, oh man, you have chosen the God that you worship, and it is not a pretty one. The battle for the culture is heating up. We here at the Daily Wire are making some big moves. So be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, because you're not going to want to miss a single moment.